All right, we are back breaking down another one of your Dynasty teams. We're going to give our thoughts, how we see your team right now, maybe some moves that we might make if it were us.
Correct.
If you want to be considered for a future video, join our Discord with the link in the description. And at certain times, we will send out a message letting you know how you can submit your team for this series. So shout out to MyBallZachErtz.
MyBallZachErtz.
Which is Alan. You can now see his team on the screen. So a little bit of context here. It's a Superflex League.
Correct.
This team is apparently 4 years in, and there are no taxi spots. No taxi spots. So before we even get into the team, let's talk about that, because you need to get some taxi spots. Do whatever you can to advocate this offseason. Because it does look like you have quite a few picks.
Yeah, it does.
You have the picks. Go to the other teams that have a bunch of picks. And let's kind of, come together, almost the NFL Players Association, right? Do it for the players. You need some taxi squads. Every Dynasty team needs a taxi squad, in my opinion. So that would be the first thing I would say to change.
Okay.
But let's look at the team. Let's break it down position by position. So the quarterback room, Badake. How do we feel about this quarterback room?
Yeah, look, I'm okay with the quarterback room. Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, as you can see on your screen. There's no quarterback depth. You do have, Tyler Huntley and Kyle Trask, but I don't think these are guys that you can start at all. Obviously, these are backups to a quarterback now. Looking at Superflex position in the Superflex league, I think your quarterbacks are good, but the depth is not there. If one of these guys gets hurt, if Carr gets hurt, if Watson gets hurt, you don't have a quarterback. And I think that's probably the downfall and the disadvantage in this position. But the quarterbacks are solid. You just need a little bit more depth. Maybe you can get if they're on waiver wire, Mitch Trubisky, a Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan, something like that can just hold you down for this year. Because, I'm seeing those picks, and we'll definitely get to it. And, maybe one of those picks can be a quarterback, and maybe that's the expectation. But even for this year, Deshaun Watson is expectations to miss 8 games.
Yeah, totally. So he's not going to be there.
He's not going to be there, which is okay. It's okay. Maybe you're not trying to compete for this one for this year. Or maybe you're trying to do a win now, whatever the case may be. But I think the quarterback depth is what you need. But the quarterbacks you have so far are great in Deshaun Watson and Derek Carr.
I agree. Let me say this just before we even continue. I think that this team is in a position of a ton of flexibility. So I just want to say that before I'm going to say some ideas of moves that I would make or potentially look at. Because if this is my team, I'm going to tell you what I might do. Okay. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. This team is a very flexible team. There is a lot of room to move. It can win now. You can build more towards the future. You definitely have win now pieces. Derek Carr, ideal quarterback 2, right? Just an ideal guy for the quarterback 2 position. With those 5 2023 first, Badake. Surely you can get a position to get a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or one of those guys.
Absolutely.
I am going to say something a little bit controversial here. Because I have Watson in a league, and I personally have been trying to move him for certain quarterbacks. So again, I'm only saying from the perspective of what I would do here again. So for me, I know it's slightly controversial, and you absolutely do not have to sell Deshaun Watson. However, if you can get Patrick Mahomes, some people are low on him right now with losing Tyreek Hill. If you can get Herbert for a straight swap, if someone's just insanely in love with Watson, those are straight swaps that I would do right now. If you can go out and get Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, and maybe some draft compensation back as well, I would definitely be inquiring personally. And again, that's just like we made a video 2 weeks ago, Badake, and I said the reason I'm hesitant on Deshaun Watson is because who knows what else could come out. Yeah. And then the week after, another team had a chance to legally indict him. Now they didn't decide to do that, but I don't know about you. The press conference didn't really ease my mind. They didn't really answer the questions I wanted them to.
I think
you really go to 40 different masseuses that you find online, and you don't know anything about their credibility as a masseuse. You bring your own towel. Anyway, we don't need to get into the specifics of it.
Yeah, right.
But
you bring your own towel. Hey, you got a towel now.
That's so weird. That's so weird. Anyway, I personally am trying to move terrible. Watson for guys like Burrow, for guys like Murray.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not worried about him as a talent. I'm looking at him and he's a risk on my team. So again, you do not have to do that if you don't have those same worries. But I have seen some wild Deshaun Watson trades where people get insane value. I'm talking hauls. So look, if I am you, that's something that I'm trying to do. If I can't get one of those players that I just mentioned, I'm not moving him. I'm holding him. And that's the stance that I've had.
Okay. I can definitely see why you need to, or why you can do that, and maybe just have a better, more consistent quarterback. And people do love Deshaun Watson as a fantasy player, so
yeah,
it makes sense trying to shop that.
Now, as a talent, he's top 5, no questions. But there's just an uneasy part about me. And again, I'm looking at this team from the perspective of what would I do, and that's something I have been doing with teams that I have Deshaun Watson on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at the running back room, Badake. It's a pretty competent room. I like that we have Ronald Jones and Michael Carter on our bench.
Exactly.
Rojo signing in Kansas City. Huge. Probably best case scenario for you. I would advise to keep Josh Jacobs. I'm really, really excited about his outlook with this new offense around him. But his team's in an interesting place, Badake. I want to know where you stand on this. How do you feel about Derrick Henry being here? Do you want to ride out with Derrick Henry? Because this team could win now. I kind of have a thought there, but I'm curious where you stand.
For me, I'm personally trying to shop Derrick Henry. It's okay to keep him, but I'm personally trying to shop. And the reason why it's okay to keep him is because of those 5 2023 first round picks. Okay, that's one reason. But the second reason is to try to sell him as high as possible. And maybe I think what's good about this is that Ronald Jones is a perfect trade bait if you want to try and trade him now or in the season when he drops that 25 or 35 plus point game. If that were to happen and people saying, you know what, Ronald Jones is actually getting the work over CMC. So if that's the case, and maybe you either keep him or you have a good solid RB, low end RB2, or maybe he'll be higher by then. But for me, I'm trying to package Henry in package Henry and this first, the 2022 first, the 108 that you have, and try to get a younger running back like a Dobbins and Etienne and Akers, a Gibson. See what you can get. Maybe you can get more for some of those guys, specifically that I said. But maybe you get Dobbins in a small piece or Akers in a small piece, whatever the case may be. Because if you can sell Derrick Henry to a win now team, I think they're going to be like, well, hey, like I'm trying to win now. Maybe they're trying to get him. They're trying to just throw you anything that they can get to get Derrick Henry so they can win now, So that's how I'm seeing the scenario. I think this RB room is a good room. I do believe you need a solid RB2 though, or technically RB1. I think Josh Jacobs can be RB1 and then a solid RB2. Like I said, Dobbins, Etienne, Akers, Gibson, these guys, because at the moment,
well, we still view Henry that. Do you mean long term?
Yes, long term, exactly.
Okay.
Long term. So we definitely still view Henry that way. But to have a solidified RB2 or RB1, however you want to see whoever will be RB1 or 2 for the future, then maybe you can try and go and get that guy now. And then don't worry about Derrick Henry aging. But once again, I think you can still sit and be okay with that because you have 5 first round picks in 4 first round picks in 2023.
Yeah, I'll get in here. I just think that, your team is in such an interesting spot because look at the wide receivers. I mean, this is a win now wide receiver core. Even you look at the bench. I mean, there are no young guys really that have a bunch of promise. It's such an interesting place for this team. And I also think about it this way, though. How long will Watson be suspended this year? And what will that mean for Amari Cooper? So as much as you are a win now team, you have to think about it maybe the entire year. We don't know yet. Watson won't be there for at least some games, which will impact Amari Cooper, which means that Derek Carr will be your starting quarterback. So it's like you're in this position where, if you can make it to the playoffs and Watson isn't suspended the entire year, you might be able to win. But I agree with trying to move on from Derrick Henry. You don't have to do it. Make sure you get proper value. I'll throw out an idea, okay? The Derrick Henry and the 108. Maybe you have to add a second round here and go get the 101 in this year's draft and get Breece Hall. Okay.
Maybe.
So you have draft picks to play around with. When I look at a team like this, I can keep all those draft picks and make selections, or I can do a combination of making selections as well as improving my team through the trade market. Okay. And that is an idea that I would potentially look at. Alternatively, you can use Derrick Henry in the 108 to maybe get a Najee, like you said, to Javonte Swift, a younger guy. Let's try and get younger at the position to extend our window, because you're probably watching, you're saying Derrick Henry is a top 5 running back. Yeah, he is now, but he's also getting very old and he's already dealing with 29. A lot of injury issues. Yeah. So I do think the right move, and while it maybe hurts your window now, it extends your window later. So I do think the right move is to try and move Henry if the right value is there. Yeah. So let's look at the wide receivers now. Like I said, this is definitely an older wide receiver room. There's not really many young futuristic promising players. How do you feel about the wide receiver room here?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like you said, this is an older room here. Maybe start moving some of these guys. These guys are still worth a first round pick in this year's draft. I don't know if somebody wants to give up a 2023 first round pick. Guys that I am shopping. I'm shopping all these guys. Okay, I think you could get a first round for all these guys. D-Hop, Evans, Amari Cooper, even Jarvis Landry, depending on the team he signs with. If he signs with the Chiefs, hypothetically, whatever the case may be, I think you can sneak in a late first round for Jarvis Landry. So these are the guys I'm trying to move. You can keep him. Another opportunity for you to keep some of these players, because you do have, once again, 5 2023 first round picks. Okay. Yeah. But if I am going to sell these players, the 2 players I'm willing to sell is D-Hop and probably D-Hop, 3 people. D-Hop, Mike Evans, and Amari Cooper for the following players. And this could be in a package. This could be in whatever you want it to be. A Hollywood Brown, a Monroe St. Brown, a Michael Pittman, a Jerry Jeudy, a Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Kadarius Toney. The list can really go on. Maybe I'm looking for some of these guys. Maybe you can get 2 of these guys for one of these players. Maybe you have to throw in a little bit something, or maybe one of these guys, they can throw you something in return for D-Hop, Evans, or Amari Cooper, just depending on how they feel, Okay. And once it's going to be hard, I feel like, to sell Amari Cooper, because everyone's going to be like, well,
I don't think it's going to be hard.
I'm saying that people are going to be hesitant until they see how he works with Deshaun Watson. The expectation that he could be a guy, but Deshaun Watson's going to be miss the first 8 games, so they're going to be like, well, they're not going to have Deshaun Watson. I can see that conversation happening already. Oh, you don't want Amari Cooper? Oh, man, well, Deshaun Watson's missing the first 8 games. I don't know if I want that right now. Right. Like, I'll give you a second. Nah, bro.
So here's what I think is really important. If you're not able to sell Henry, you don't move these wide receivers and you try to win now. I think that's very important to say, because with the capital that you have coming in, you don't have to make these moves. I mean, there are wide receivers here that you can still win with for the next couple of years. So I just want to say that now, this is not a team that has to sell the farm, okay? But if Derrick Henry is moved, it might make sense for you to potentially move on from some of these wide receivers. Now, some of the names you mentioned, I'm not on board with. Claypool.
That's fine.
I'm not on board with that move. Maybe Toney even, just because I'm not so certain of what they would turn out to be.
Yeah.
I'm more thinking, hey, we have a chance to use some of this capital to get proven elite wide receivers. So I'm gonna throw a couple ideas out there. Could be D-Hop, could be Evans or Cooper here, but let's say you throw D-Hop in a 2023 first, because you have some to play around with. You don't have any taxi spots, by the way. So let's say you go D-Hop, a 23 first for A.J. Brown, and maybe a late second round pick. What about D-Hop and a 23 second and go get Jalen Waddle while people are a little bit uncertain about him? How about a 23 first just straight up for DK? Get younger at the position. Or one of those first for T. Higgins. Obviously, you don't do all of these moves. Maybe one of these moves you make. But let's get younger and keep competing. So I think for me, I would be looking to make some of those moves, just because I do think that this team is in a win now position. And if I'm able to translate one of these picks into an AJ Brown, and I'm able to move Henry, like we said earlier, for a Breece Hall or a Javonte, all of a sudden my team is looking like Deshaun Watson, Javonte Williams, Josh Jacobs, AJ Brown, Mike Evans. You can see how it's starting to get younger. And I might not have all my picks, but the longevity of my team, and I still have elite guys. So those are some moves I'd be looking to make.
That makes sense. And I think the reason why I was hesitant to give advice and trying to sell these players with a 2023 first, I think is because I think maybe he's trying to start building for the future. Maybe you can go and get those proven guys right here, right now, like you said, Javonte and AJ Brown, a T, whatever the case may be, or you can kind of gear up and stack on these first rounds and believe in the talent that's coming in. Those are two different ways that you can go. I think that's why I was a little bit hesitant to say, hey, maybe you should package some of these guys. Maybe you can still sell D-Hop Evans and get a Hollywood and get a Monron, get a Pittman, and maybe you can get some more in return in those trades, and then still get a top wide receiver in the 2023 draft class.
I definitely get it.
So
the only thing I'm saying is, like, if you're moving on from them, then you're kind of, and you're getting these a little bit more unknowns, you're kind of taking yourself out of that win now window. So that's the only reason I say that.
And I think maybe that's the case, like maybe.
Well, I don't really think that you need to when you have Watson and Derek Carr on this team, but I think it's a good convo. How about the tight end position? I mean, we've got Zach Ertz. We've got Gronkowski there. We've got Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
No stud necessarily, but I don't think you need to necessarily make any moves. I think you're pretty set for the next 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely. You're fine there. I mean, Zach Ertz 2-3 years. Sell Gronk. If he does re-sign with the Patriots, you can get late second or mid-second, early second, whatever the case may be that you can get for Gronk. So I think there's some good opportunity there for you in the tight end position.
I'll throw out one more idea. It's a way to use these picks to improve. And, maybe all the ideas I've said on the video, you only do one of them. That's fine. But I think there are ways that you can get younger, stay elite, and, maybe with these 23 picks, maybe you hit on 2 of 5 of them. Maybe you hit on 3 of 5 of them, But, you don't always hit on those picks. So how about you try and move Zach Ertz, maybe add Gronk or a second, as well as a 23 first, and try and get Kyle Pitts. Because right now there is a window where people are worried about Marcus Mariota. I am not one of those people.
Right,
so maybe you can look for a deal like that. Maybe, again, I know there's a lot of ideas I've thrown out there because I want you to have opportunities to pursue different types of deals. And I think some people are potentially looking. And honestly, I like this team. I really like this team as a whole. I think you're in a fantastic position. You're in a position where you can win now. Honestly, Badake, can we be on the same page? He doesn't have to make any move.
He doesn't have to. He
doesn't have to make any trades.
I'm still willing to make moves though. Like, I don't know if I would want to.
I agree. We're both willing, but I'm saying, can we be on the same page that we can both agree he doesn't have to make any moves with the picks that he has?
He doesn't have. You don't have to make any moves. I completely agree. I think it'll be harder to try to sell these guys next year though. That's all I'm saying. But I do agree. You don't have to make a move.
I agree.
One thing I wanted to say with the picks regarding the 2023 picks is that if some reason all these 5 picks are the last 5 picks in the draft, that's when I'm willing in the first round. That's when I'm truly willing to try to get some of these players. If maybe you can get, maybe one of these picks turns out to be the 108, the 107, the 109, the 112, the 111. Maybe it's like, you know what? If none of these picks are top 5, top 6 pick, then maybe it's best to go and get proven talent over some of these late round projected guys late first round guys that saying, you know what, these guys can be something, but we don't know. You rather have solidified players in the first 5 rounds, or at least quote unquote solidified players in the first 5 rounds of the draft. So that's the thought process for me.
I love the team. I gave it an A flat. I think this is in a really, really good place. Win now pieces, and you can also keep, bringing youth in it throughout the drafts. What did you give this team? Yeah,
I gave this team. Excuse me. Let me scroll down. I gave this team a B plus.
Okay. All right. Comment down below. What do you guys think about this team? You disagree with some of our moves? Honestly, people always do, so it's okay. Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/fantasylandfam.